accounting one, no, particularly accounting for derivatives and your accounting for special transactions or yung advac nyo. Okay, you learned about hedge accounting, no, particularly yung mga interest rate swap contract, what else, option contract, forward contract, as well as futures contract, no, especially involving foreign currency. Okay? Now, impairment. So when you say impairment of financial instrument, it has to do with the recognition. If there is recognition of financial instrument, which we discuss under classification and measurement, no? We impairment of financial instrument has to do with the recognition or removal of financial instruments from the books of the entity. Okay, so these are under PFRS number 9. Okay, now what about PAS 32? Actually, PAS 32 is, though it's already an old PAS, no, or an old accounting standard, yet it has not been superseded yet. Okay? So meaning to say that BAS 32 is still currently effective. So this is all about presentation of financial instrument. Okay? How do we present financial assets? How do we present in our financial statement financial liability? Okay? Because when you say financial instruments, no, they both, or they mean, no, either, no, either financial asset or financial liability. Financial asset, point of view of the investor. Financial liability, point of view of the investee. Right? Okay. And that, no, the next one, no, is PFRS number 7. PFRS number 7 is about disclosures of financial instruments in the notes to financial statement. So this all these financial, all these PFRS and PAS, they go hand in hand. They are always together. Now, by the way, PFRS number 9 superseded the old standard on financial instrument, which is which is PAS number 39. So in lieu of PAS number 39, we already starting, no, or effective 2013, January 1st, 2013, no, we've been applying already PFRS number 9. Okay, so that if you will be given questions on about financial instrument, no, the questions are what? Questions should come from PFRS number 9 and no longer from PAS number 39. Okay, so let's begin with the first slide. Okay, so okay, let's define financial instruments. No, it is said that financial instrument is either a financial asset or a financial liability depending upon whose entity are we referring to. Point of view of the investor, so it has to recognize financial asset. Point of view of the investee, no, whether the investee, no, is the investee, no, may recognize a financial liability or an equity. No, it's not only financial liability, it may be equity. Okay, so financial asset to an investor, financial liability or equity to an investee or issuing corporation. Okay. Now, a financial asset or a financial liability should be recognized or recorded in the books, or rather it should be recognized in the statement of financial position when the entity becomes a party to the contractual provisions, meaning to say from the word contractual, it means to say it arises from a contract. Okay, the contractual provisions of the instrument. So a contract gives rise to a financial asset, no, of one entity, no, or and a financial liability or equity to another party. Okay, to the another party in the contract. Okay, so it, as I said, it depends on what is your point of view. Are you the accountant of the investor or the accountant of the investee? Okay, so but of course, no, when we speak of financial asset, it is not just confined to investment. Okay, so we will find out later on that there are types of financial asset, not only investment, no, investment in equity or investment in debt instrument. Okay, so let's begin by defining financial asset. Any asset that is cash, wow, is cash a financial instrument? What kind of financial instrument is cash? Is it a debt instrument or an equity instrument? Take your pick. So is cash a financial instrument? And if it is a financial instrument, what is it? Is it a debt instrument or is it an equity instrument? We will find out later on. Okay. It may also be a contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity. That's the reason why receivables are also financial assets. Trade receivables, loans receivables, receivable from related parties like affiliates, no? Those are examples of, contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity. Okay? Now, what about an equity instrument of another entity? So that if your corporation, no, bought or acquired shares of stock from another corporation, then that represents an equity instrument. Okay? Now, or sabihin na natin shares of stock. Or financial asset may also be a contractual right to exchange financial instruments with another enterprise under conditions that are potentially favorable. What do you mean by this? So this refers to derivative instruments, right? So there are three types, no? Okay, uh, conceptually, and not only conceptually but also practically, there are three kinds of financial asset we can classify, or we can say that there are three types or general types of financial asset, namely debt instrument, equity instrument, as well as derivative instrument. Okay? So the third one or the fourth one or the fourth bullet refers to derivative instruments. Right? Okay. Let me go back to my question. Is cash, what kind of instrument is cash? Sabi natin tatlo lang eh. It's either debt instrument or equity instrument or derivative instrument. Okay. Now, cash is a debt instrument. Why is it a debt instrument? Okay, I want you to get a peso bill. It may be 100 peso bill, or it may be 1,000 peso bill, or a 500 peso bill. Okay, and I want you to read no, the top or at the center or on top and at the center of your peso bill, okay, your paper bill, okay, you will read, no, you will read that nakalagay diyan, di ba? Ang salaping ito ay ano, ay bayarin ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas at pananagutan ng Republika ng Pilipinas. Ano yun? Ang ibig sabihin pala, ang money, in our case, the Philippine peso, is a debt instrument. Isa raw bayarin ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas at pananagutan, meaning to say guaranteed by the Republic of the Philippines. Okay, so that only shows to us that cash is a debt instrument. And of course, even in a check, it's a debt instrument. So, debt instrument, bayarin ng nag-issue ng cheque. Kanino? Doon sa may claim, contractual right or a contractual claim. No? Okay, the party who has a contractual right to collect. Right? So, it's a debt instrument. Now, contractual right to receive cash, no, refers to receivables. For as long as the receivable is receivable in cash. Trade receivables, loans receivables, advances to what? Advances to related parties like affiliates, subsidiary. Okay? So those are examples of contractual rights to receive cash. Even a refundable security deposit is what? It is a debt instrument. Why debt instrument? Kasi later on, the lessee or the lessor has to return the money to the lessee. Okay? Such that it is collectible in money, in cash. Because it is refundable. Tama? Okay, so marami palang klase ng financial assets. Okay, another, equity instrument of another entity. Example, no, investment in shares of stock. Okay, so sabi natin, no, you may buy shares of stock from listed companies or listed corporations. Meaning to say, ano bang pinag-uusapan natin na listed? When you say listed, these are corporations that are listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange and that their shares of stock, no, are being offered to the public. You can buy from the stock market. And what about unlisted shares of stock? Are they equity instruments? The answer is yes. Equity instrument may be ordinary share or preference share. May be listed shares or unlisted shares. So those are equity instruments. No? Now, what about derivative instruments? Naku, napakadami. No? Ano ba yung mga derivative instruments that you know of? Of course, you have your interest rate swap, yung mga swap contracts. No? Futures contract. Forward contract. What else? Option contract. So those are terms that you learn in accounting for derivatives, right? Okay, so they represent contractual right to exchange financial assets at terms that are potentially favorable to the entity. O di ba kapag nagkaroon tayo ng interest rate swap receivable kasi nagkaroon tayo ng gain from interest rate swap contract, Di ba magkakaroon tayo ng interest rate swap receivable? The same is true with forward contract receivable. The same is true with futures contract receivable or option contract receivable. Right? Those are derivative instruments, no? Pwede pa rin sila pala ay financial assets din. Okay, now, what about inventories? Are they financial assets? Answer, no. What about property, plant, and equipment? Are they financial assets? No. What about intangible assets? Are they financial assets? Answer, no. What about investment property? Are they financial asset? The answer is no. Although ang tawag natin ay investment, ano ba yung form ng investment property? Di ba land and building? No, in the form of land or building. So hindi siya financial instrument, right? Okay, therefore, no, those investment properties are not financial asset. Now, what about investment in associate? Financial ano ba siya? Financial instrument ba siya? The answer is yes. Although investment in associate is covered in another PAS and not under PFRS number 9. May sarili siyang PAS. Anong PAS yon? PAS 28. Diba? Although investment in associate, ano ba yung investment in associate? Diba? Yun ay investment in ordinary shares. Tama? Whose investor or the investor considers the investee as an associate. Why? Because of the, because the ownership interest is at least 20%, giving the investor a significant influence over the operating as well as financing decision or financial decisions of the investee. Okay? So kailangan alam natin kung ano talaga. What about prepaid rent? Of course not. Prepaid rent is not a financial asset. Okay? So you should distinguish financial assets from other assets, that are presented in the statement of financial position. Okay? Now, financial liability to another entity. So, kung may financial asset, on the point of view naman of the other party, it may be a financial liability. Now, what is a financial liability? It is any contractual obligation, kontrata, may kontrata, to deliver cash or another financial asset to another entity. So, it's a payable. Ano-ano yung mga payable? Naku, napakadami nating payables. Okay? So napakadami yung mga payables na yan, yung mga loans payable mo, yung mga bonds payable mo, even your accounts payable, financial liability yan. Okay, because it is a contractual obligation to deliver cash or another financial asset to another entity. What about unearned revenue? Hindi. Bakit? Kasi you will not deliver cash naman. So your obligation is to render service or to deliver goods. 'Di ba? 'Yun ang pag unearned, let's say unearned revenue. So titingnan mo. So to deliver cash or another financial asset to another entity. What about income taxes payable? Sabi mo, teka muna, payable in money yun ah. No? You payable in money or in cash? Siyempre, pag nagbayad ka sa BIR, question, is it a financial liability? Answer, no. Bakit? It does not arise from a contract. It arises because of the tax law. No? The tax law obligating you to pay. No? So, hindi siya contractual obligation. So, it emanates from tax law. Obligasyon ng bawat entity, na kapag kumita, magbabayad ka ng income tax payable. So, it does not arise from any contractual obligation. No? kontrata. No? Okay. So, it means to say you have to qualify. Now, another financial liability to exchange financial instrument with another entity under conditions that are potentially unfavorable. O, eto na naman tayo. No, sabing gano'n, under condition kanina, it's just the same. Tingnan mo yung sa financial asset. Contractual right to exchange financial assets at terms that are potentially favorable. Kaya nga asset, derivative asset. Ito naman, point of view of the point of view of the party, no, that will exchange financial instrument with another entity under condition that are potentially unfavorable. Talo siya dun sa derivative, no? Nagkaroon siya ng derivative the loss from that derivative. That's the reason why instead of recognizing derivative asset, you will recognize a derivative liability. O, di ba? Naalala niyo yung accounting for derivatives nyo in intermediate accounting 1? No? It's either it gives rise to or the transaction gives rise to what? To a derivative asset or to a derivative liability. Kapag talo ka, derivative liability. Kapag panalo ka, derivative asset yun, receivable. O, gets nyo? Kaya po pwedeng magkaroon pa ng interest rate swap payable. Kasi ikaw ang talo. Potentially unfavorable to you. Or pwede kang magkaroon ng forward contract payable or futures contract payable or option contract payable. Kasi negative yung fair value, it is not in your favor. O, di ba? Ano yung mga changes sa naaalala nyo pa ba yun? Yung mga changes, no? Can you still recall the different, di ba sabi natin, nagkakaroon ng derivative because of changes in what? Changes in the underlying variable, or sometimes we call them as observables, or sometimes we call them underlyings. Di ba? O kahit ano pwede, di ba? O commodity price, nag-change yan. Ano pa? Fair value, nag-change yan. Ano pa? Foreign exchange rate, nag-change yan. Lahat na halos nag-change yan. And even weather condition, nag-change yan. O, di ba? Those are observables or underlying. Kaya yung kapag yung change is not favorable to you, it gives rise to a financial liability. So instead of having a derivative asset, you will have to recognize a derivative liability. And derivative liability is an example of a financial liability. O, gets nyo? Alam ko namang gets nyo. No? Okay. Equity instrument. So any contract that evidences a residual interest latak residue in an asset of an entity after deducting all of its liabilities. So asset minus equity, or asset minus liability is equity. Equity means net asset, right? Residual interest. Or net worth. Sometimes we call it net worth. Sometimes we call it equity. Sometimes we call it net asset. It is a residual interest. Okay? Now, let us discuss itong mahirap talaga sa yung classification and measurement, no? Okay. So, it is really important that you are able to properly or correctly classify financial instrument, because failure to do so would mean error in measurement. So, meaning to say, a wrong classification of financial instrument would mean wrong measurement. It always follows. Hindi pwedeng tumama yung measurement mo pag mali ang classification mo. Kaya we will begin with the classification of financial instrument. And it's not easy to classify because later on you will learn that there are two types of tests, no, for you to be able to correctly classify financial asset. Okay? So, titingnan natin, ngayon. In the most recent or yung current pronouncements, no, of IASB, no, you will notice that all PFRS, no, of course, first your PFRS number 9, no, you'll notice that, no, the current standard setters are always in favor of fair value accounting. During our time, no, when we were still in college, and even, no, since time immemorial, no, we assign, or rather we measure investment, no, in stocks, investment in bonds at historical cost. Ano ba yung historical cost? The acquisition cost. The price that you have actually, no, incurred, or you have actually paid for, no, to acquire the asset. Historical cost. But now, if you will analyze, or if you will learn PFRS number 9 and all other related PFRS on financial instrument, the trend now is fair value. Fair value accounting. Okay. Now, the accounting, so pero sa totoo lang, as FS preparer, mas preferred. Sa totoo lang ng mga accountants yung historical cost. Bakit? Ay napakadali. No, titingnan mo lang magkano ang pagkakabili doon sa sa financial asset, or magkano ang pagkaka-acquire initially. So wala nang iba pang tatanungin, kundi yun na lang, the exchange price paid for. That is already the cost, or the debit to financial instrument, whatever it may be. Okay, historical cost. Kaya lang ngayon, nabago na ang panahon. So that the current standard setters, no less than the IASB, no, is always in favor of fair value. So that includes financial instrument. Okay? Kaya nga ang tawag natin fair value accounting na ngayon eh. Okay. So the accounting treatment for a particular instrument is largely determined by how the instrument was classified under PFRS number 9. Let me reiterate. No? Wrong classification means wrong measurement. Okay? So, doon pa lang sa classification, the accountant must be what? Must be knowledgeable. No? Doon pa lang sa classification. Okay. However, there is a certain degree of subjectivity when classifying a financial instrument. Hindi naman mawawala yun eh, yung degree of subjectivity. Kaya nga, as much as possible, let's be objective. No, kaya nga may PFRS number 9 to guide us in the classification and measurement of financial instrument. Okay, in order to what? In order to mitigate or to minimize or to reduce being subjective when classifying a financial instrument. Ang lakas ng ulan dito sa amin. Hindi ko alam kung sa Manila malakas ang ulan. Okay? Dito super lakas. Okay. Now, in classifying financial assets, there are two types of tests. Namely, the cash flow characteristic test, or SPPI test. Okay? So, what do you mean by SPPI test? It is what? An acronym, no? Meaning solely payments of principal and interest. May S dito, no? I just typed, S is missing. Solely payments of principal and interest. Kaya ang SPPI kasi napakataba naman ng term. Okay? Or it is known as the cash flow characteristic test. What is it all about? We will find out. Okay. And that after the cash flow characteristic test, the financial instrument has to undergo another test. And that is business model test. Okay? So, ang mga instruments daw kailangan dumaan sa dalawang klase ng test. Okay. Ano ba itong dalawang klase ng test na ito? Okay? Ngayon, ang sabi natin, no? The default classification. Tandaan mo ha, 'di ba? Kahit sa computer may default eh. O, 'di ba? Oh, kayo ano ang default font nyo? Font type nyo? Ako ang default ko Calibre. Okay? So if I want to change it to Arial or say Times New Roman, no? I will have to, select because no, if I will not select a font type, no, it is sure that the default is Calibre. Okay? O, di ba may mga default? Now, in classifying financial asset, there is always a default, no? A default, tawag dito, a default value. Ano yung default na yon? Yung fair value. Fair value through P and L. Normally, ang haba-haba kasi, fair value through profit or loss. Okay, that is the default classification. Okay, fair value through profit or loss. However, not all financial instruments are to be classified using the default classification. That is fair value through profit or loss. It now depends upon the result or the outcome of the two types of test. Ala, ano ba yun? Paano kung gagamitin yon? We will find out para malaman natin kung paano natin ika-classify ang financial asset. Okay. Tatlo yung dapat nating i-classify. We will classify derivative asset or we will classify derivative instrument. We will classify debt instrument, and we will also classify equity instrument. Okay? At lahat ng mga instruments na ito dadaan dun sa two types of test. Okay? Except those that fail to mamaya makikita nyo dun sa table na ipapakita ko sa inyo. Okay? So, what is cash flow characteristic test or SPPI test? Now, terms of the instrument only provides for cash flows that are solely payments of principal and interest. Ang ibig sabihin, yung kumpanya, the purpose of acquiring the financial instrument is only is only the purpose of buying or acquiring financial instrument is that the financial instrument is expected to provide cash flows that are solely from what? From the payment of principal as well as the interest. Yun ang purpose ng investment. In order to generate cash flows that are solely payments of principal and interest. Okay. So, ibig sabihin, ano ba ibig sabihin ng principal? When you say principal, it is the fair value of the instrument at initial recognition. Yun ang principal amount. Okay, which we recognize initially at fair value of the instrument. Sabi nga natin, ang default is fair value. Right? Okay. Ngayon, ano yung ibig sabihin natin ng payment of interest? Now, interest, of course, interest is affected by many factors, and among them, no, you have to consider the time value of money. You also have to consider in your calculation of interest the credit risk, the liquidity risk, and even the normal profit margin. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga factors na ito are to be considered in the calculation of interest payment. Ang ibig sabihin sa cash flow characteristic test, no, we need to know the purpose of the company in acquiring the investment. Is it to provide cash flows or to generate cash flows that are solely, no, payments of principal and interest? If the answer is yes, then it means to say the financial instrument passes, no, in this particular test. Okay? Kasi kapag hindi siya pumasa dito sa cash flow characteristic test, automatically, no, the classification is that of fair value through profit or loss. Tandaan nyo yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kapag pumasa, no, sa cash flow characteristic test, yung isang financial instrument, then that means to say, no, dadaan siya ng another test which is the business model test. Eh paano kung doon pa lang sa cash flow test, bagsak na? Meaning to say that the instrument is acquired not to generate cash flows that are solely payments of principal and interest. In that case, you will have to use the default. And what is the default? Fair value PFPL. Okay? So, let's move forward. Business model test. The business model is determined by the entity's key management personnel. Okay. So ano yung ibig sabihin ng business model test? Itong business model test, no, this refers, no, to the entities or how the entity manages its financial asset. So it consists of mga policies na talagang yung mga policies na yan, more or less, they are more or less permanent or fixed policies. Hindi yan ang kanilang sinasabing business model test. It is applicable to all financial instruments and not only instrument by instrument approach. Hindi yung individual instrument lang. Pangkalahatan. What model is that? No? So, yun ang magtuturo sa atin regarding business model test. So, business model is determined by the entity's key management personnel. Ibig sabihin yung nasa managerial position. An entity's business model refers to how an entity manages its financial assets in order to generate cash flows. So, business model test under PFRS 9 includes the following. Evaluation, does the entity evaluate the performance of the business model, and is there an internal reporting system regarding financial instruments? What about the risks that affect the performance of the business model and the management of those risks? Kaya nga meron sinasabing risk management, 'di ba? Kaya ibig sabihin kung ang company talagang may mga policy sila regarding regarding management of risk, no? Management of those risks, how they manage the risk, no? The risk, no, in financial instruments, no? So, yun yung inano natin, yun yung tinutukoy natin na business model test. How managers are being compensated based ba sa fair value, no? Or whatever. Okay, now, There are three possible business models, no, that you may encounter. The business model may be held to collect contractual cash flow. Ito yung sinasabi natin na yung sinasabi nating SPPI, no, that the generation of cash flows are only from what? Only from the contractual cash flows are from or solely, no, solely or singly or solely, no, the payment of principal and interest. That is the reason why itong mga held to collect financial instruments are being classified as what? Being classified as financial asset at amortized cost. Financial asset at amortized cost using the effective interest method. Naaalala nyo pa ba yun? Lagi sinasabi, using the effective interest method. Okay? Now, what about the next model? Held to collect contractual cash flows and sell. Hala, kombinasyon. Held to collect contractual cash flow siya, but at the same time, held to sell. Okay. In that case, kombinasyon ng dalawa, ano ang classification natin? Financial asset at fair value through other comprehensive income. What about kung ang business model ay held to sell or held to trade? When you say trade, it means to say you buy now, you sell. No, the intention is to sell kapag mataas ang fair value, no, you sell. Kapag mababa ang fair value, you buy. O anong tawag doon? Trading. Kaya ibig sabihin, kung yung financial instrument is held to sell or held to be traded, then anong ibig sabihin? Ang business model ay fair value through profit or loss. You see? Yun ang three possible business models. Right? Okay, so let's move further. Now, held to collect contractual cash flows, no, means you collect talaga contractual cash flows. And it can have infrequent sales. Ibig sabihin, kumbaga sa focus, mas nakafocus, no, ang purpose ng company is to, is to generate cash nga from siyempre pag nagpautang ka, no, the tendency or your claim is to collect, no? Anong i-collect mo? Yung principal plus yung interest. Alam nga naman magpautang ka ng pera na hindi ka mangungulekta ng interest. You're crazy, no? If you do that. Okay? And in fact, kahit sabihin natin walang nakalagay doon sa promissory note na nakalagay non-interest bearing. However, diba, using an implicit rate, anong ginagawa natin? No, kino-compute pa rin natin yung implicit interest. Kasi hindi tayo naniniwala na non-interest bearing yun. Diba? Okay. So, your purpose is to collect contractual cash flows. Okay. And that, yung sale niya, yung sale ng financial instrument is really very rare. Okay. For example, you may sell, no, siguro bebenta mo rin yun later on, but the selling, no, is close to maturity. Malapit nang matapos yung maturity date. By the way, what is the difference between debt instrument and equity instrument? Debt instrument has a maturity date. Tandaan nyo, may maturity date. Basta debt instrument. Whereas equity instrument does not have maturity date. Naku, yan ang number one na glaring, no, difference between debt instrument, no, and that of equity instrument. Debt instrument has maturity date. It has a due date. Whereas equity instrument does not have a due date. For as long as you want to hold or you intend to hold, no, the shares of stock, o edi, so be it. Okay, now sa held to collect contractual cash flow, no, infrequent ang sales. Like for example, po pwedeng ibenta mo lang siya at the close, no, at the date close to maturity. O kaya naman the sale of the asset does not meet certain credit rate. Kasi ang mga kumpanya, alam nyo ba, no, na meron niyang sarili-sariling credit rating. Okay. Eh kung ang mga gobyerno nga nangungutang yan sa IMF World Bank and other, banks, no, international banks. Don't you know na mayroong mga companies that are talaga engaged solely on, assigning credit rate or credit rating to each and every government or country. Okay? Kagaya ng itong credit rating corporation or credit rating what do you call this organization that is based in US. Anong tawag doon? Yung standard, do you know Standards and Poor's? Okay, so if you have time, no, I want you to look for it. The Standards and Poor's, no? Yung mga countries, no, yung gobyerno ng mga countries na mga nangungutang, no? Especially yung mga nangungutang sa World Bank, IMF, may credit rating yan. Okay, kagaya nga ng ang Pilipinas nasa B na yata. No? At least naka-B ka na. Kasi hindi maganda rating ang C. Okay. Ang pinakamagandang rating is AAA. It's only US that has a AAA credit rating. Pero ngayon bumaba na sila. Naging AA na lang. Okay? Dahil ang dami nilang utang, they are too exposed. So, ibig sabihin, ang mga companies, no, yung mga big corporations na yan, companies, they are being rated. No, may credit rating na sinasabi. Okay, so that if the sale of the asset that does not meet certain credit rate, so, held to collect contractual cash flow. Okay. Or it may be due to changes, no, nagkaroon ng sale due to changes in tax law. Other than that, hindi nila ibebenta. Okay? Yung kanilang financial instrument. Significant internal restructuring or business combination. So, hindi naman, rarely na nagbi-business combination. It doesn't mean na for a number of times magbi-business combination ka. So, it's really a rare, no, something like a rare transaction. Okay? So, yun ang sinasabi natin na held to collect So, most likely, it's held to collect contractual cash flows. Okay? Now, what about held to collect and sell? Okay? So, it will tell us, ito yung mga indicators Business objective is to both collect and to both collect the contractual cash flows and sell the financial asset. Ito yung mga sinasabi natin na ang purpose nila is SPPI, solely payments of interest. However, payment of principal and interest. However, there may be cases wherein mapipilitan silang ibenta. Okay? Or sabihin natin for an indefinite period of time, they will be holding the investment, but later on, they will also sell. Okay? The financial asset. Okay? So, pwede yon. Kaya, ibig sabihin, yung financial asset nila is always available for sale if the need arises. If the need arises. Okay? It's unlike talagang, kunwari, let's say, held to sell ka lang talaga. Talagang ang purpose ng company is to trade. Hindi to hold it for a long time. Kasi for trading talaga. Ibig sabihin, pag tumaas yung fair value ng share, no? Kunwari kung equity instrument, bebenta nila. Kapag mababa, they don't sell, no? But they would rather acquire more financial instruments, no? Because mababa yung presyo. Kasi 'di ba, the test is that, or rather, no, the rule is that, no, you sell when the fair value or the share price increases. You acquire or you buy when the share prices decrease. 'Di ba? Ganun ang ating ano. Ngayon, ang purpose nitong held to collect and sell, kombinasyon ng held to collect, cash, contractual cash flows, and as well as held for sale or held to sell when the need arises. Meaning to say, the financial asset is also available for sale. Kaya if you still remember noon, no, I do not know if you have already encountered the term available for sale or an account title available for sale securities. No? Ang intention is to collect SPPI siya, kaya lang there may be kumbaga, there may be a case, no, wherein the financial asset is held or available for sale. Okay? Intention is to sell before the investment matures. Investment in government bonds where the investment period is likely to be shorter than maturity. Investment in corporate bonds where the investment period is likely to be shorter than maturity. So meaning, ito yung mga instances that financial instruments are classified as held to collect and sell. Okay? Now, what is the objective of holding the instrument? No? Apparent from the way the entity manages its financial asset. Apparent from the entity's practice. It depends on the practice of the company. Ano ba ang practice ng company? Ano ba yung tradition nila of holding the instrument? So it can also be seen from the way the entity measures its performance and how it compensates its employees. Okay. Now, pag sinabi nating business model test, it means to say pangkalahatan. Ibig sabihin, it's not instrument by instrument approach. Kunwari, ito ginagawa nito sa isang instrument, tapos yung kabilang instrument, ganito naman ang ginagawa. Kasi pag sinabi nating it's a business model, it is more or less parang something that is fixated. However, it is also subject to change, pero yung changes niya is not frequent. Okay, hindi ka naman basta nagbabago ng business model eh, 'di ba? So it takes time, no, to change your business model, 'di ba? Kaya more ngayon sabi natin, is it equated or is it can we call it management's intention? Kasi pag sinabi nating management's intention, intention is always changing eh. Talagang kumbaga with respect to frequency or in terms of frequency, ang intention, may mga management na now ito ang intention, tomorrow iba na naman ang intention, the next day iba na naman yung intention. Hindi ganun ang business model. There is something like it is more or less permanent. No? However, I'm not saying na fixed na yan forever. It takes time to change a business model. Okay? Dito, meron bang something, a tinge of what? A tinge of permanency. Pag sinabi natin this business model. And it is, kumbaga, something that is more holistic than instrument by instrument approach. Kasi pag sinabi natin instrument by instrument approach, individual instrument. Yung kung anong ginawa mo doon sa instrument na isa, hindi yun ang gagawin mo doon sa iba. No, maaaring iba yung style mo doon sa iba. Hindi business model yun. No? Okay. So next. Now this is the classification and measurement. It is really difficult to classify. No? So classify financial instrument. But of course there are techniques. No, there is a technique, by the way, in classifying and measuring financial asset. Okay. Una. Okay. So sa cash flow or SPPI test, no, let's look at derivative instrument. Doon muna tayo sa derivative instrument kasi this is very easy. Kapag nag-fail siya doon sa cash flow or SPPI test, automatically, no, it will no longer undergo business model test. Kasi the mere failure no in cash flow or SPPI test would make no or would call for a classification which is, as I said, the default classification, and that is fair value through P&L. Kaya kapag ang derivative instrument no fails in the cash flow or SPPI test, meaning to say it is not to generate cash flow solely from payment of principal and interest, then it will no longer undergo business model test kasi automatic na fair value through profit or loss, which is the default classification for derivative instrument. Okay? Now what about equity instrument? No, if the equity instrument no fails in the cash flow or SPPI test, that is to say, hindi naman siya para payment of principal and interest kasi equity instrument nga eh. O di ba iba naman ang equity instrument sa financial liability? Ano ba yung payment ng solely payment of principal and interest? Di ba it's only applicable to debt instrument? O ang equity instrument o ano yan, wala. Hindi yun papasok dun sa cash flow or SPPI test. Kaya it will fail. No? And that, since it fails from cash flow or SPPI test, hindi naman yan ang nature ng equity instrument, then it also follows na hindi na siya mag-undergo ng business model test. Hence, the classification is fair value through profit or loss. Okay? However na naman, no? May mga instrument tayo, equity instrument, in some instances. The equity instruments at the option of the investor, no? Or at the option of the investor kasi equity instrument eh. At the option of the shareholder or the investor, yung nag-acquire ng shares, no? May opt to classify it as fair value through OCI. However, no, however na naman ha, however, okay, once you classify it as fair value OCI, it will no longer or it will be permanent classification and it cannot be reclassified to fair value through profit or loss. Tandaan niyo yon. Ang default ng equity instrument ay fair value through profit or loss. However, as I said, the company or the investor, or shall we call the shareholder, no, has an option no, to classify it as fair value through OCI. However, when you classify it at fair value through OCI, wala nang alisan doon. It will be permanently classified as such. Hindi na pwedeng i-recycle yan sa fair value through profit or loss later. Gets nyo? Now, what about debt instrument? O, tingnan mo. Ang debt instrument, papasa yan sa cash flow or SPPI test. Bakit? Di ba pag debt instrument, there is payment of principal and interest. Tama? So, the cash flow is generated by generated through parang cash flows will be generated from payment of principal and interest. Pasado yan sa cash flow or SPPI test. Once pasado yan sa cash flow or SPPI test, we will not stop yet because we still have to apply the business model test. So sa debt instrument pala ina-apply yan. Okay. Such that if the intention is to collect the contractual cash flows solely from interest or your intention is SPPI nga, then it means to say the classification is financial asset at amortized cost. Okay, to collect SPPI, to collect. So that means to say the classification of the instrument is financial asset at amortized cost. Paano yun? If the business model is to sell, to trade, then what is it? It's not fair value, it's not at amortized cost anymore, but fair value through P&L. Okay? Because the business model is to sell, to trade. However, if the business model is to collect and to sell, then in that case, you will use the fair value OCI. Got it? Question. Pwede ba na later on maging fair value at through PNL yan? The answer is yes. Kasi debt instrument naman siya. Kaya ibig sabihin, no, if initially it is classified as financial asset, no, through OCI, may pagkakataon na pwede siyang i-recycle sa fair value through P&L. Unlike equity instrument, kasi once inilagay mo siya sa fair value OCI, wala nang kayon or wala nang karapatan yon na ma-recycle sa fair value through P&L. So, yun ang ibig sabihin ng classification. So, sometime or you would say that it is quite difficult, no? I mean, it's a little difficult to remember, but using this illustration, no, it will not really be so difficult. No? Okay, I repeat. Kapag derivative instrument at saka equity instrument, hindi pumasa yan sa cash flow or SPPI test, then there is no other or there is this will no longer undergo business model test. Business model test is no longer relevant because automatically the derivative instruments and the equity instruments will be classified as fair value through P&L, except equity instrument wherein at the option of the company, no, the investor, no, it may classify, no, the equity instrument, no, as fair value through OCI. However, there is no recycling anymore to fair value P&L because it is already a permanent classification until, no, until it dies, no, I mean until it is disposed of, okay, by selling. Talagang permanently OCI na siya, no? Now, for that instrument, since it will pass the cash flow or SPPI test, then it has to undergo business model test. So there are three types of business models. One is to collect contractual cash flows solely from payment of principal and interest. Kapag pumasa doon, then that means to say the financial asset is to be classified as amortized cost at amortized cost. However, if the business model is the second one or to sell, no, then that means, no, the classification is fair value at P&L or through P&L. However, if the business model is to collect and to sell, then that means you classify the fair value or you classify the debt instrument, no, at fair value through OCI, no, with, of course, which can be recycled later on if there is a need to. Right? O, yan ang classification and measurement. Okay. So, let us parang summarize natin yung sinabi natin. No, so for derivative instrument, fair value through P&L. For equity instrument, fair value through P&L. For debt instrument, it depends on the business model. It may be fair value through P&L if the intention, no, is to what? Is to sell rather than to collect, or rather to collect SPPI. Now, it will be AC or at amortized cost if, no, the intention, or rather if the business model is to what? To collect, no, SPPI, no? And then for fair value OCI naman, if the combination of collect contractual cash flows from SPPI as well as to sell. Okay, so that, you know, that is the summary of classification, no? Ngayon, sabi natin, if we are going to compare, no, the classification of financial assets, no, under PFRS with that of the old PAS 39, no, it is much easier now kasi kung ano yung classification, yun din ang measurement. If you still, if you notice, no, the classification of the financial asset is also its measurement. Okay? So, kasi sa PAS 39, ganito eh. Yung fair value through P&L, which we normally call, no, as trading securities. Do you still remember the term trading securities or marketable securities? Yan yung FVPL eh. Okay? You may call it fair value through profit or loss, or that's the old term is, or even the US GAAP term of trading securities or marketable securities. No? Now, another classification is held to maturity. So, ito yung katimbang ng ano ngayon, ng classification na financial asset at amortized cost. Okay? Kaya ibig sabihin, no, doon held to maturity. So, you will have to ask yourself, ano ang measurement basis nito? Whereas kapag sa PFRS number 9, if the classification is fair value through no, not fair value, but financial asset at amortized cost, that is also yung classification yun, that is also the measurement. The measurement basis is amortized cost. Kung ano yung classification, the term that we use in classifying it, no, is also the measurement basis. Kaya napakadali. Okay. Ngayon, no, na simplify. Kasi nung PAS 39, the reason why ni-revise ang PAS 39, the old standard for financial instrument, mahirap intindihin. No, even CPAs na veterano ng CPAs, nahihirapan pa mag-apply nitong PAS number 39. No, I mean, it's a little confusing. Okay. So kaya nga pinalitan ni revise, and it really took them, no, too long or so long, no, to finish PFRS number 9. And that sa totoo lang yung PFRS number 9, no, now we can completely apply it, unlike before, no, it was introduced, no, in PFRS number 9 was introduced then, no, in 2013. However, it is just phase 1. Wala pa yung phase 2, wala pa yung phase 3. No? Kasi nga mahaba ang PFRS number 9, no? As you can recall the coverage of PFRS number 9, namely classification and measurement, ano pa yung nakalagay doon? Hedge accounting, and then the other one is impairment of financial instrument. Okay. Meron pang another classification. So under the old PAS 39, loans and receivable. Sabi mo, paano yung loans and receivable? What is the measurement basis? Well, loans and receivables are measured also at amortized cost. Kaya lang, the way we call it loans and receivables, no, you still have to to ask yourself, ano measurement basis? Because it is not, no, the hint is not given with the use of the term loans and receivable. Unlike today that through PFRS number 9, no, amortized cost yan. Ibig sabihin, yung mga loans and receivables na yan, we can call them as financial asset at amortized cost. And then comes the available for sale security. Ito yung fair value through OCI ng PFRS number 9. O dito, as I said, you cannot readily guess the measurement basis. But if with the use of terms, wherein the term used for classification is also the term used for measurement, well, it is easy, to understand and to recall. Kaya pag sinabi mong financial asset at amortized cost, sinabi mong financial asset at fair value through P&L, sinabi mong fair value, financial asset at fair value through OCI, no? As well as fair value, financial asset at fair value through OCI of debt instrument. So remember, yung fair value through OCI, dalawa yan. It can be debt instrument or equity instrument. Diba? Okay. So yung FVPL na yan, derivative instrument as well as equity instrument, automatically fair value through P&L yan. However, sabi nga natin, meron din tayong fair value through P&L na na debt instrument. Okay? So, makita mo yung classification ng PFRS number 9. So, it's easy to remember because the classification itself is also the measurement basis. Okay? So, that's the difference, no? Okay, next. Alam na natin yan. Overview of PFRS on financial instrument. Okay, so, that is a simple, discussion or a simple lecture on basic financial instruments. No? So let's move forward. So let's see wait lang ha. Let us see our handout. The handout that I gave you last time. Wait for a while. I'll change my screen. Okay. Yan. Okay. So we started, I started with financial instrument. Actually, financial instrument is only one type of investment. There are others. Okay. Now, kaya nga nakalagay dito sa handout natin, investment, in financial instrument, and other investments. Okay. Now, why do we invest? We invest, no, for various reasons. Okay? Why do companies invest? It may be for safety caution because investment is a ready source of funds which can be withdrawn, if needed. Okay? Thus ensuring a company can continue to operate, sometimes even in the face of extreme adversity. Sabi nga natin, kung meron tayong isinuksok, meron tayong dudukutin. Okay, so that's the idea or that's the purpose of an investment, especially in times of or in bad times, or in extreme adversity. Just like the pandemic, right? Yung mga kumpanyang walang investment, baka for sure, wala na sila. Kasi saan sila kukuha ng pondo? And it's really difficult now to, infuse funds, no? Because of, everyone is experiencing parang something like, yung ano, talagang, time to really make both ends meet, 'di ba? Okay, so that with the use or with the having very limited resources, no? Maraming nawala ng trabaho, kaya natural, even companies, no, they lost many customers, no? Mahina ang benta. So that is also one reason why, no, many companies have closed or have shut down their operation temporarily. And siguro soon there are those who have not who failed to come back when the economy opened up, no, pero yung mga iba na merong investment, so for sure, no, they can still revive their old business, and they can still, recover. Okay, kaya importante yung merong investment, okay, because it is a safety caution. Cyclical cash needs, no, for many companies whose business is of a certain nature, no, their cash balance fluctuates during the year. No, it also provides opportunity to earn a return on cyclical cash surpluses until funds are needed later in business cycle. May mga kumpanya kasi na ang kanilang product or service, no, ay cyclical. No, when we say cyclical, it means that the product or service is seasonal. No? So may peak season, merong slack season. Like for example, yung mga resort, no? Ang mga resort, no, talagang it's really good business during summer break. No, but during rainy season, of course, no, it's really, kumbaga, it's their slack season. Okay, so it's really important that they have an investment so that in times of kumbaga slack season, no, they still can manage or they can manage to continue the operation even at a loss. Okay? So investment for a return on accretion of wealth. Mga nag-i-invest, no? Like for example, bumili ng lupa for an indefinite purpose. Okay? So, o kaya naman, why do we invest in, uh, what do you call this? Kunwari, let's say, kagaya ng investment investment in bonds. Okay, yung sinasabi nating financial asset at amortized cost. For regular income, o yun nga, solely for the payment of principal and interest. Regular, no? Regular income. So, interest income is regular. No, if you have naman investment in stock, then that means you have a regular dividend income. If you have investment in investment property, may condominium ka that is really for rental, then you will have regular rental income. May mga patents ka, meron kang mga intellectual property, you can rent them or you can lease them, no? So for royalties. Di ba? So, for capital appreciation naman, bumili ka ng lupa for an unknown or for indefinite purpose, then probably you would be selling it when the value appreciates so that you will have a realized gain. Then it is for capital appreciation, 'di ba? O kaya naman investment for influence as in the case of investment in associate, 'di ba? In order to ensure a supply o no, kumbaga a constant supply or a regular supply of raw materials, no? Or sabihin natin, no, influence, no, if you have an investment in associate, no, you can influence the board of directors. So normally may seat ka sa board of directors, di ba? If the investee is an associate. Okay. Or it may you are able to diversify product offerings, no? Kasi syempre, well, yun nga yung sinasabi natin na uh, what do you call this? If you have many associates, no, so you can easily, parang you can easily unite with them, no, for business purposes, no. Okay, so ibig sabihin, no, you can do many businesses with them, no, and you can even influence, no, their businesses, no. So associate. Kasi paano ba nagiging associate? Of course, no, it depends on the quantitative threshold, no? Wherein quantitative measure natin is the ownership in the ownership in common stock or ordinary share is at least 20% of the total outstanding shares. 'Di ba? Kaya nagkakaroon ng associate, 'di ba? Okay. Purchase for ownership. O eto na yung or ownership control. As in the case of what? No? Ito yung stock acquisition for control. So, ano ba yung quantitative measure natin? 50 plus 1, no, is already what? Purchase or ownership, owning the company, no, or controlling the company, no, wherein the parent, the investor becomes the parent company, no, who controls the subsidiary, no, the investee company. Kaya nga ito yung sinasabi natin na dapat i-consolidate because there is parent-subsidiary relationship. Okay, the parent being the investor, so that majority of the outstanding common shares, no, is owned by the parent. Okay? So it enables control of operating, investing, and financing decisions. No? So the financial performance of all subsidiaries is consolidated with the financial statement of the parent. Di ba? Okay, so the purpose of the investment is to control. No? Okay. So ano pa? You may also invest, no, in bond sinking fund. You may also invest in by putting up or by setting aside, let's say, a preference share redemption fund or a planned expansion fund, no, in order to meet business requirements. Gaya ng bond sinking fund. So it may be a requirement, no, for bond indenture, no, or yung bond issuance, no, para naman sigurado, or a security, it is a security, no, for what, for bondholders, so that when the bonds mature, no, there is a ready, or there is a secured fund, no, where the entity or the issuing corporation, no, will where payment, no, or the settlement, no, of the bonds, no, on maturity date will come from, no. So at least merong ready, no, ready source of for the settle ready source of fund for the settlement of bonds, no, of bonds. Okay, so ganun yun, so meeting business requirements, and then protection, like for example, kapag merong yung cash surrender value of life insurance policy, we all know that it is an investment. Okay, for as long as you retain, no, the life insurance policy, pataas ng pataas yung cash surrender value of the life insurance policy. So that in the event that you cancel the insurance policy, you can you can claim the cash surrender value of life insurance policy. So while it is not yet claimed, then it is an investment. Okay? So example nga natin ng investment, financial asset at fair value through P&L. So PFRS number 9. You may have financial asset at fair value through other comprehensive income. Again, we discussed that in PFRS number 9. Financial assets at amortized cost, PFRS number 9 pa rin. Investment in associate, no, you will The specific PAS is PAS 28. Investment in joint venture is also PAS 28. Investment in subsidiary, PFRS number 10. Ito yung gagawin, itong didiscuss natin na consolidated financial statement. No? Investment property, PAS number 40. And investment in funds, wala yang specific PFRS or PAS. Okay? So, let us answer now. Let us answer. Teka, hedge accounting tayo, no? You know, hedge accounting is not, it's not mandatory. It is optional, no? It is optional to a company, no? Okay. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng hedge? A hedge is a protection. Actually, when you say a hedge, no, and you look for its meaning from the dictionary, no, the dictionary will tell you that a hedge is a fence, no? It's a fence, bakod. Now, what is a bakod for or a fence for? No, it is for protection. Let's say if you have, let's say, kumbaga a dairy farm, no, you have cattle, you have horses, you have pigs, you have chicken. Okay, so you need a fence. Diba? So fence is a protection. So the reason why it's called a hedge is a protection. Now, why do you call it a hedge accounting? Kasi yung mga derivatives, no, companies do enter, no, in derivatives, or they entered into derivative transactions in order to protect something. Kaya nga ibig sabihin ng hedge accounting, no, the derivatives are accounted for as a protection against imminent financial loss brought about by changes in the underlying or yung tinatawag nating observables. Kagaya ng kunwari, meron tayong mga financial instruments na now that we alam naman natin na ang fair value, the fair, let's say may investment tayo in stocks, no? We call financial asset at fair value. And we all know that fair value is really very it's volatile, no? So it is influenced, or it is always influenced by what? Influenced by market force. So nagfa-fluctuate 'yan. Okay, so that is one reason why you hedge, no, to protect the company against imminent loss brought about by changes in fair value of shares of stock. Okay? O kaya naman, you are engaged in what? Engaged in importation and exportation. So, I mean, you engage in international trade. O meron kang importation, exportation, no? Transaction. So ano mangyayari? Okay, if there are changes in foreign exchange rate, that will directly affect your business. O, di ba? It may be you may if you will not be hedging, if there will be no hedge, talagang you are really exposing yourself or your company to financial trouble later on kapag nag-fluctuate ang foreign currency or exchange rate. Okay? O kaya naman, prices of commodity, especially if you have, let's say, you have a restaurant that offers or that serves exotic food. O hindi mo alam, kunwari, restaurant that offers lobster, no, as a specialty. O anong price ng lobster? O, nagfa-fluctuate yan. So that means to say, food prices or commodity prices, they fluctuate. Kaya kung wala kang hedge, well, you are really too exposed to financial loss. No? And you will never know what will hit you in the end that will cause you, no, or that will cause great financial loss. 'Di ba? Pwedeng mangyari 'yon. Ngayon, sabi natin, kaya may hedge accounting. So hedge accounting is designed, no, is designing one or more hedging instrument so that their change in fair value is an offset to the change in fair value or cash flow of a hedge item. Ano ibig sabihin ng hedging instrument? Yung mga derivatives, derivative instruments, no? As I said, I have enumerated already interest rate swap contract, or interest rate swap derivative, option derivative, forward derivative, no? Ano pa yung isa? Futures derivative. They are hedging instrument because you are hedging an item. And that hedge item may be an asset, it may be a liability, a financial liability, or you may be hedging, no? You may be hedging, let's say, a forecasted transaction or a firm commitment, or let's say for example meron kang offshore operation, meron kang offshore operation or offshore business, no? So pwede mong i-hedge yan, kaya maaaring meron kang hedge item. Sabi mo, are there cases wherein, no, you enter in a hedging transaction, you enter into a derivative transaction not for the purpose of hedging, hindi na covered ng PFRS yan, PFRS 9. Yun yung tinatawag natin na speculation. So you enter into derivative transactions without having any hedge item. Hindi ka naman nag-hedge, nag-i-speculate ka, and that is gambling. No? Gambling yan, that's gambling. Okay? So, hindi covered yan ng PFRS number 9. Ang covered lang ng PFRS number 9 is hedge accounting. Meaning to say, you enter into derivative transactions or hedging instruments because you have a hedge item. Okay? So, if the company wants to protect itself against foreign currency risk and it enters into foreign currency forward contract. So, that's an example. No? Even if it meets the condition for the hedge accounting, it can still measure the derivative at fair value through profit or loss and not apply hedge accounting. So application of hedge accounting is voluntary din. Kaya lang talagang careful ang company kapag nag-enter sila sa mga hedging instrument, no? They become party to a hedging instrument. Maraming company ang bumabagsak because of poor risk management, no? And that includes poor hedging or poor hedge, tawag dito yung poor hedging management. Oh, hindi marunong mag-hedge. Oh, laging talo. Instead of having derivative asset, laging derivative liability. Ay babagsakan yan. Okay, kaya ingat kasi derivative yan. No? Marami na. In fact, in US, no, one reason na nagkaroon ng financial crisis in I guess that's 2008. No, the reason why there had been, no, a financial crisis is because of what? Yung talagang grabe na, napaka-complex na, yung talagang too much, no? Too much derivative transactions na maraming bangko ang nalugi. Okay? The reason why inano sila, binail out sila ng US government. Imagine, yung mga private corporations, no, just to survive, inano sila, binail out sila ng US government using no less than taxpayers' money. O, taxpayers' money in order to save private, banking institutions there in America. O, kaya nga, unfair yun sa mga taxpayers eh. Okay, kaya lang mamamatay yung mga yung mga malalaking banks, okay? Dami nun. There was the time na talagang it was really a very serious financial crisis. Okay? Kasi yung masyado nang exposed sa derivative. Okay. So ayan, oh. There are three types of hedges: cash flow hedge, fair value hedge, and hedge of the net investment in a foreign operation or offshore operation. Di ba? Okay, so ayan ano. So ano ba ang difference ng fair value hedge sa cash flow hedge? Ano yung hedge of a net investment in a foreign operation? That's the reason why, ayan. So pag-aralan itong illustration natin ito. No? Pag fair value hedge, okay, what is the effect? If it is a cash flow hedge, what is the effect? No? What is how do you account for a fair value hedge, a cash flow hedge, or a hedge of a net investment in a foreign operation? Okay? So, yun ano? Okay, PFRS number 7, as I mentioned earlier, no, is about disclosure of financial instruments in the statement of financial position or in the notes to financial statement, no? Okay, so it shows us or it covers the accounting policies for financial instrument, meaning to say kailangan kapag nagpe-present ka ng notes to financial statement for financial instrument, one of the most important disclosures is kailangan mag-summarize ka ng accounting policies for financial instrument. Napakadami nun. No? Okay. And then you also indicate information about hedge accounting if you are engaged in hedging. No? Description of its hedge, hedging instrument, the fair value of those instruments, and so on. Okay? And all those, like for example, kung cash flow hedge siya, no, if there has been a gain or loss on a hedging instrument in a cash flow hedge, no, you have to explain, no? And there are some more. Now, ito yung mga sa hedges ito, okay? So, information about the fair value of each class of financial asset and financial liability. Yan. Hindi basta-basta ang mga ang disclosures on financial instrument. Okay, may mga qualitative disclosures, quantitative disclosures, may mga meron ka mga i-present na mga tables, mga schedules, no? Etc. Okay? And even the credit risk, okay? Credit risk management. Oh, yan. Totoo lang. Disclosures about credit risk, okay? The maximum amount of exposure, okay? Or yung tinatawag na debt exposure, ayan. Financial asset that are past due or impaired, etc. Now, yung liquidity risk, kaya pag nakita mo yung risk management aspect ng notes to financial statement, napakahaba. Okay, napakahaba. Okay? So, market risk is also one, no, na i-disclose mo. Ano yung mga risk na dinidisclose? Dami. Credit risk. Ano pa? Liquidity risk. Ano pa? Market risk. So may mga risk analysis ka pa na ipe-present sa notes to financial statement. Kaya talagang madugo ang ang accounting for and presentation of financial statements with respect to financial instrument. Okay, PAS number 28, investment in associates, no? And joint venture. Ayan, no, di ba? O ano-ano 'yan? O syempre, definition of terms. Ano ba ang associate? What do you mean by joint arrangement? Ano yung significant influence? Okay, kasi significant influence means the power to participate. No, hindi control the power to participate in the financial and operating policy decisions of the investee but is not control or joint control of these policies. Okay? So iba ang joint control. Iba rin lalo ang control, full control. No? Kapag joint control, joint venture yan. Kaya you are referring to investment in joint venture. Kapag naman full control, you're referring to investment in subsidiary. Okay, wherein there is a parent-subsidiary relationship. Di ba? Kapag significant influence lang, then you refer to investment in associate. Ganun lang yung kadali. Ngayon, investment in joint venture as well as investment in associates makes use of equity method. What is equity method? It is a method of accounting whereby the the investment, no, is initially recognized at cost and adjusted, no, and adjusted thereafter for the post-acquisition change in the investor's share of the investee's net asset. So, kapag ang isang investee nag-report siya ng net income, then the share in the investee's net income will increase the carrying amount of the investment in associate. Likewise, if there is a reported net loss by the investee, then the share in the reported net loss is to be what? Is to will reduce or will decrease the carrying amount of the investment in associate. Likewise, kapag nag-declare ng dividend si investee, no, the dividend allotted to the investor, no, will also be a reduction of the carrying amount of the investment in associate. Okay? So, yun ang ibig sabihin natin. Ngayon, tingnan mo nga yung significant influence. Sabi natin, there is a quantitative measure of significant influence. No? So, whenever the investor holds 20% or more of the voting power, pag sinabing voting power, ordinary shares lang yon, ha? Okay. Of an investee, so it will be presumed the investor has significant influence unless it can be clearly demonstrated that this is not the case. Ngayon, kahit less than 20%, pwedeng i-assume natin na merong significant influence because of the following evidences. So any one or more of the following indications or indicators, no, you may assume that there has been a significant influence. Kahit hindi pa umabot doon sa 20% or more na threshold natin. Example, kapag may representation sa board of directors si investor, ibig sabihin one or two seats nakaalat sa kanila, no? Or even one seat nakaalat doon sa investor. So it means to say it's an indication that there is significant influence, no? Representation on the board of directors or equivalent governing body of the investee. Or sabihin natin, no, the investor is a participant in the policy making process. Sino ba nagpa-policy making? Management, 'di ba? So if the investor has has a participation in the policy making process of the investee, then that may also be construed as an indicator of significant influence. Gets nyo? Or sabihin natin, may material transactions between the entity and the investee. Now, what that material transaction is depends upon, no? Depends upon the two parties. Ano ba, material ba talaga o hindi? Okay. Interchange of managerial personnel. Okay? So, provision of essential technical information. Any one or more of these indicators, no, once satisfied or once met, no, That means no, the investor has significant influence over the investee. Even though no, the 20% threshold is not met. Okay? So next, ito yung ating ano, no? So yan lang naman. So yung equity method procedures, no, inilagay ko lang diyan. Okay? Ang tanong, pwede bang later on yung investment in associate, no? Maging investment in stock na lang using the cost method? The answer is yes. Kung mawala na yung 20%, let's say, all things being equal, walang indication other than indication of significant influence like participation in the board of the, wala yung mga yon, kundi ang pinagbabatayan lang natin yung threshold na quantitative threshold na 20%. Paano kung nabawasan yung quantitative threshold na yon? Question, anong gagawin mo sa investment and associate? Ire-reclass mo. Reclassification. So it means to say you will no longer apply the equity method. Ano nang gagamitin mo? It will be cost method. Kasi gagamitin mo lang ang equity method, no? If it is investment in associate. Pag nabawasan yung quantitative threshold, no? Let's say naging less than 20%, probably binenta nila yung ano nila, ordinary shareholdings nila, nabawasan yung 20%. O ano mangyayari? It will now be what? Re-reclass mo, no? You will remove it from the investment in associate account. At hindi mo na gagamitin yung equity method. So that is the essence of PFRS number or PAS number 28 with respect to investment in associate. Tama ba? Okay. Ayun, sabi natin, no? Ay investment property, so we have already discussed this. Naisama ko lang yan dyan. Anyway, now tingnan natin yung ano, di ba pinag-aralan natin na ang receivables ay financial instrument din. Okay, so what are receivables? So, well, nandun pa rin tayo sa PFRS number 9, but this is an elaboration, no, of an example of a financial asset called receivables. Ano ba ang receivables? Okay. So, sabi natin, nung sa intermediate accounting, after discussing cash, eto na comes accounting for receivables. Okay. So, what are receivables? Receivable represents a financial asset arising from a contractual right to receive cash or another financial asset from another entity, a claim to collect. Receivable. What are types of receivables? Meron tayong mga tinatawag na loans and receivables. They are non-derivative financial assets which, ay, ang aking alaga ng gugulo. Okay. So, arising, nasa na tayo? They are non-derivative financial assets with fixed maturity. May maturity ba ang receivable? Yes! Kasi debt instrument ang loans and receivables Diba? Kaya may maturity date yan. Now, including loan assets, trade receivables, investment in debt securities, deposit held by banks that are not quoted in an active market. Diba? Other than those classified as financial asset at fair value. So marami pala ang pwedeng i-classify natin as loans and receivables. Basta lahat ng mga receivables, no? Okay. Now, for most companies, no, they have trade receivables. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng trade receivables? They arise from the ordinary course of business. Kung ikaw ay merchandising business, nagbenta ka ng mga paninda, no, on account, di meron kang trade receivables. Particularly, you may have accounts receivable. O mga bangko, nagpautang sa kanilang mga kliyente, nagpautang ng mga business loan. Ano yon? They are loan assets. We call them loan receivable. Okay? So, ganun, ano, meron mga, ay naku, nasira tuloy. Ay, okay. Yung kasing alaga ko, biglang KSP eh. Biglang tumatalon dun sa laptop eh. Okay. Whereas for banks and similar institutions, loans and receivables constitute a significant proportion no, of their non-trade assets. No, in particular loans and advances to customer. Sandali lang. Sandali ah. Talagang alaga ko. Oh, yan na. Labas ka na. Okay. So, what are classes of receivables? Trade receivables, non-trade receivables. Naku, ang dami-dami ng non-trade receivables, ano? Presentation of receivables. Oh, paano ba pine-present ang receivables? Oh, trade receivables daw should be presented, no, on the face of the statement of financial position as a one-line item and classified as current assets. Siyempre, yung details ng current ng ano ng trade receivables no will be shown no or will be disclosed in the notes to financial statement because they are too many. Now, and so with non-trade receivables, they are also presented as one line item under the current asset section. Okay? Now, how do we recognize and measure receivables? So, sabi natin, ang initial recognition, lagi naman at fair value eh. And what is the fair value of the receivable? It is the transaction price. So the fair value is based on the total expected future cash inflows that an enterprise will realize. No? So, ngayon, pag sinabi nating receivable, it may be short term or it may be long term. 'Di ba? Ngayon, paano yung notes receivable? Sa totoo lang, conceptually, notes receivable should be stated at present value. Walang problema if the notes receivable is only short term. Kasi yung present value niya is also the face amount. However, kung long-term note yon, doon kami problema. Because you have to what? To compute for the discounted value or the present value of the long-term notes receivable. Naalala nyo yon? No? Okay, gagamit ka na naman ng present value factor. Kasi long-term yung notes receivable. Sabi mo, bakit pag short-term hindi natin short-term? Pag sinabi natin short-term, within 12 months lang, di ba? Okay, so yung due date is just within 12 months, di ba? Within the 12-month period. Kaya yung face amount is also the present value. So there is really no need for you to convert it into present value because the face amount itself is already a present value. Whereas kapag long term yung notes receivable, that's the time i-discounted value mo or ipe-present value mo. Okay? So, ganon, no? Kaya gamit ka na naman ng present value factor for you to be able to get the present value of the notes receivable. Okay? So, ang notes receivable natin may have a specific interest rate. O kaya naman, walang sinasabing interest rate. In that case, kailangan hanapin natin ang yield rate or yung effective interest rate. Or, sabihin natin, market interest rate. No, which is actually the discount rate to determine the present value. Di ba? Ganun yan? Okay, subsequent to initial recognition, eto nga, di ba sabi natin, ang notes receivable is a debt instrument. Kaya kung debt instrument siya, ang ibig sabihin, pumasa siya saan? Pumasa siya doon sa SPPI test natin. At pumasa rin siya doon sa business model natin na to collect what? To collect contractual cash flow from SPPI. Kaya anong ibig sabihin? Ang classification natin or rather ang ating measurement no subsequently is at amortized cost. O, di ba? Okay, so ganun 'yon ano? So, what about impairment of receivables? Ano man tawag natin dun sa impairment of receivable, no? Sabi natin, it is subject to credit loss. 'Di ba? Kasi nga, 'di ba sabi natin may mga default risk na tinatawag na po pwedeng no, the debtor fails to pay some or all of the contractual payment, including late payment. No? So yun yung credit loss. Okay, such that eto na sa PFRS number 9, no, the expected loss model no is our way of what? Determining the credit loss. Okay. So sabi nga natin, lagi tayong may allowance eh. Allowance, di ba? Pag trade receivables, we have allowance for doubtful accounts. Okay? So ano ba yung general approach? So for the recognition of impairment losses on financial assets that are measured at amortized cost and financial assets with contractual cash flow measured at fair value through other comprehensive income, we apply the general approach. Okay? Now the general approach in the general approach, no, the company recognizes the expected loss for a financial asset in accordance with stage 1, may stage 2, at saka may stage 3. Pag sinabi nating stage 1, no, wala pang significant increase in credit risk. Ito yung initial, imagine, stage 1 pa lang, magre-recognize na tayo ng expected loss. Ha? Ganun ba yon? Wala pang indication ng credit risk that there has been a significant increase in credit risk. Magre-recognize na kagad tayo na expected loss. That is in stage 1. Pagdating ng stage 2 and stage 3, no? Kunwari, nagkaroon na ng significant increase in credit risk since the initial recognition. Dapat ito credit risk ka. Na mali ako. Okay, kulang. Okay, when there has been a significant increase in credit risk since the initial recognition, then that's the time no, that the receivable is already in stage 2 and stage 3. Okay? So kapag nagkaroon na ng significant increase in credit risk, it's either nasa stage 2 na or stage 3. Okay? Ngayon, paano yan ina-apply itong expected loss model na ito? Okay. Now, kapag daw napunta na sa stage 2 and 3, the entity is required to recognize an allowance for the expected credit loss. No? And the amount of the loss allowance reflects the probability-weighted amount derived by considering the probability of a range of possible outcome. Okay? Kaya nga, ang magiging journal entry natin to recognize a loss allowance is debit impairment loss and credit loss allowance. Okay? Or any other appropriate account. No? For as long as it is appropriate account. So, debit impairment loss and credit loss allowance. Now, pag sinabi nating loss allowance, it is a contra-receivable account. No? That reduces the carrying amount of the receivable or a financial asset. No? Okay. So, eto tayo, no? Importante itong malaman. For financial asset that is classified as stage 1, when there has not been a significant increase in credit risk since initial recognition, the amount of credit loss allowance recognized is expected loss for the next 12 months. Oh, I repeat, for the next 12 months. Doon nakabase yung expected loss. Okay, let's have a problem, no? Okay, kasi mahirap mahirap kapag walang problem no na illustrative problem in order to illustrate the expected loss model. Okay. Charlotte Company has a loan receivable amounting to 2 million. Ano yung 2 million? Principal. Di ba? On January 1st of 2023, which is expected to be collected in full December 31 of 2032. Nako, 2032. Okay. The effective interest rate no is 6%. Teka muna, bakit ano to? Sandali ah. Sandali. 2023 ito. Masyado naman di dapat. Sandali. Yeah. Okay, so the effective interest rate is 6% per annum, which is payable at the end of each year. Assume the debtor eventually defaults on December 31 of 2027, which results to an actual loss of 500,000. If the probability of default within the next 12 months is 2%, o yan ha, sa stage 1, yan ang gagamitin mo ha. The probability of default within the next 12 months is 2%. What is the entry to recognize stage 1 credit loss? So, January 1, syempre, nagpautang si bangko. Debit loan receivable at amortized cost, 2 million. Credit cash, 2 million. O, yun ang entry niya. Nagpautang siya. Siya yung lender. Okay. Stage 1 entry. Doon pa lang sa stage 1 ha, 2020, year 2023 pa lang, meron ka ng entry. Debit impairment loss, 10,000 and credit loss allowance, 10,000. Imagine, wala pang increase sa credit risk ha, nag-stage 1 entry ka na. Okay, sigurista ang mga accountant, ano? Okay. 500,000. Okay, 500,000. Natin nakuha yung 500,000. Ayan, assume the debtor eventually defaults on December 31, which results to an actual loss of 500,000. If the probability of default within the next 12 months is 2%, what is the entry to record stage 1 credit loss? Okay. So, lahat yan, ina-approximate nila. No? May mga approximation yan. Meron tayong mga estimates dyan. Ina-estimate nila yan. Paano nila malalaman yung future? O, kaya meron silang mga kino-compute dyan na ano. Okay. So, 500,000, i-multiply mo ng 2%. Kaya 10,000. Stage 1 entry pa lang, debit impairment loss, 10,000 and credit loss allowance ka na 10,000. Pagdating ng stage 2, if the credit risk increases significantly and the resulting credit quality is not considered to be low credit risk, full lifetime, meron tinatawag, kanina, stage 1, ang basis mo, yung within the next 12 months na probability na 2% na credit loss. No? Okay. Pero pag tungtong mo ng stage 2, ang magiging basis mo yung lifetime expected credit loss. Hindi na yung 2%. Okay. So if the credit risk increases significantly and the resulting credit quality is not considered to be low credit risk, then full lifetime expected loss are recognized. So lifetime expected credit losses are only recognized if the credit risk increases significantly from when the entity originates or purchases the financial instrument, but that do not have objective evidence of a credit loss event. Wala ka pang objective evidence of a credit loss event, basta nagkaroon ng increase saan mag-increase? Nagkaroon ng significant increase sa credit risk compared doon sa stage 1. Sa totoo lang, gagawa ka ng entry based on for the expected loss based on the lifetime expected credit losses. Okay, so eto na. So if at the end of 2023 there has been no significant deterioration in the credit quality of the loan, still considered to be at low credit risk, the entity would continue to recognize 12-month expected credit loss, no? Ibig sabihin, kapag nagkaroon ng increase sa credit risk, significant, ang gagamitin mo instead of the 12 months lifetime expected credit loss. Pag wala namang significant increase, 12-month expected credit loss ka pa rin sa stage 2. No? Okay, gawin natin. Same data as in stage 1, problem. So at the end of 2023, suppose the probability of default increases slightly to 3% due to marginal increase in credit risk of the borrower. The 12-month credit losses is re-estimated at 3% times 500,000, 15,000. What is stage 2 entry to recognize increase in expected credit loss? Kasi ang increase niya slightly lang to 3%. Kaya ang gagamitin mo pa rin yung 500,000. Kaya lang itatimes mo ng 3%. So ano ba yung 500,000? Yan yung ginamit natin within the 12-month period 'di ba? Okay. Kaya magiging stage 2 entry mo, kung dati 10,000 tayo, i-increase lang natin. Impairment loss kasi 3% of 500,000 is 15,000. And na-take up na natin yung 10,000 under the stage 1 entry. Kaya 5,000 na lang ang i-increase natin. So yun yung ating stage 2 entry. Now, pagdating ng stage 3, if at the end of year 2024, there has been a significant deterioration of the credit quality but there is no objective basis of an impairment loss, the lifetime expected credit losses are recognized. So ang basis na natin yung lifetime, no, credit losses. Siyempre, ibibigay yan ng problem, no? Okay. So, kunwari, ang lifetime na if the expected credit loss, ito ang given. If the expected credit losses over the remaining period of the loan is estimated at 200,000, yun yung lifetime expected credit loss daw. What entries should Charlotte Company make to recognize the lifetime expected credit loss? O di, 15,000 lang yung ating expected credit loss within 12 months Okay. 200,000 yung magiging lifetime expected credit loss. O edi yung difference nun, imagine that, biglang lumaki. 185 and credit loss allowance 185. Imagine that. Okay? So, ganyan ngayon ang pag-treatment natin sa mga loans receivable. Yung impairment ng impairment ng loans receivable. Okay? Nandun yan sa intermediate accounting part 1 no? Diniscuss niyo yan supposedly. Okay? So, ngayon, you can make outright cash, no, or generate outright cash out of receivables. Alam natin, ang tawag natin doon, receivable financing. You can pledge accounts receivable. Ano ibig sabihin ng pledging? Means to say, by using your accounts receivable as collateral, you can borrow. No, you can borrow from any financing institution. Kasi kung tatanggapin yung accounts receivable mo as your pledge or collateral to secure the bank loan. No? Ganon. So without the accounts receivable as a pledge or collateral, hindi ma-approve yung loan mo. Kaya it is one way of making or generating immediate cash out of your receivable. Huwag mo na intayin pa yung due date. Okay? So ang gawin mo, gamitin mo siya, pang prenda or pang lien, or pledge, to secure the loan that you will apply for. Okay. Assignment of accounts receivable. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng assignment of accounts receivable? It is a conditional sale of accounts receivable. Ibig sabihin, laging with recourse. Okay? With recourse. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya absolute sale. May habol. The moment na nag-default ng payment, yung isisingilin niya, aba, hindi nagbayad, ikaw ang mananagot doon sa ano, doon sa buyer ng accounts receivable or yung sinasabi nating the asinor pala, asinor and the asinine, di ba? There are two parties in an assignment of accounts receivable, the asinor and the asini. Sometimes you call it as you pronounce it asinor or assignee, but you can also pronounce it as asinor, asini. Okay? So, ganun, no? Now, what about factoring of accounts receivable? Ito, wala nang habol. No? So, it's already an absolute sale of accounts receivable. Okay, kaya nga nagkakaroon ng malaking factors holdback. Si who is a factor? In a factoring of accounts receivable, the factor is the buyer of the accounts receivable. Siya yung buyer. Kaya pag sinabi natin factors holdback, ibig sabihin, hindi lahat binabayaran ng factor doon sa nagbenta ng accounts receivable. Meron silang iniiwan na portion. So in the event na nagkaroon ng default, no, by customer, no, who are supposed to pay, hindi naman nakakolekta dun sa mga taong yon. So the factors holdback will take care of it. Okay. Discounting of notes receivable. Pag sinabi nating discounting of notes receivable, it is generating cash out of a promissory note, no, prior to its maturity. So the discounting may be recorded as a borrowing or as a sale. Okay? So yun ang discounting of notes receivable. It may be with recourse or without recourse. Okay? So discounting of notes receivable. Kaya di ba meron tayong contingent liability account called notes receivable discounted. Di ba? Okay. So lalo na kung with recourse yun, no? Discounting of notes receivable, selling the promissory note to a financing institution or a bank. Di ba? Okay, yan ang mga modes ng receivable financing. Okay? So, mag-answer tayo ng ating mga ano bang oras na? Naku, talagang mahirap talaga ang financial instrument. Sige, sagutan natin yung mga questions nyo. So, classify the following items as financial asset, financial liability, neither financial asset nor financial liability. Sige. Short-term money market placement. Yan, financial asset daw. Lease liability, financial liability. Notes receivable, financial asset. Bonds payable, nag-color coding ako. Bonds payable, financial liability. From inventories to biological asset to advances to supplier. Okay? Yan ay mga neither financial asset nor financial liability. In other words, hindi sila financial instrument. Di ba? Okay. Number 8, held for trading liabilities and derivative liabilities, redeemable preference share issued, accounts payable, loans payable, lahat yan financial liability. Lahat ng mga payable na yan. Okay. Loans receivable, asset yan, financial asset. Yung intangible asset, prepaid expenses, plant, property, and equipment, yang lahat ng yan ay hindi financial asset nor financial liability. Okay, next. Cash on hand and in bank, syempre financial asset. Cash fund, financial asset. Okay, security deposit and other returnable deposits. Ano yan? Financial liability. Investment property ay syempre hindi. Ano pa? Naku, ang daming hindi. 20, unearned revenue, warranty obligation, constructive obligation, prepaid taxes, claims for tax refund. Ay, lahat yan, hindi yan financial asset nor financial liability. Investment in debt securities, financial asset. Income tax payable, deferred tax asset, deferred tax liability, SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig payable, lahat yan, hindi financial instrument. Dahil hindi yan mga contractual obligation. No, yan ay provision ng ng tawag dito, no, resulting from loss of the land, state loss. Mga SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig na yan, government yan. Cash surrender value of life insurance policy, investment in associate, investment in subsidiary, bond sinking fund, lahat yan ay financial asset. Entities own shares of stock except redeemable preference share. Ano yan? So, bakit entities own shares of stock? Kasi treasury stock yan. O, di ba? Di naman yan. Eh bakit? Consider mo bang financial asset ang treasury stock? Siyempre hindi. Okay? So next, 35, 36, 37. Investment in equity instrument, investment in joint venture, derivative asset, o lahat yan, financial asset. Derivative liability, financial liability. 39 entities, treasury shares, ulit-ulit naman ito. Okay. So, 40 accumulated depreciation, hindi. Allowance for bad debts, interest receivable, yan ay sa financial asset yan. Kaya lang, si allowance for bad debts, kontra yan, kontra asset, financial asset. Interest payable, utilities payable, ay mga financial liability yan. Okay. Next, stock dividends, ay syempre hindi. Hindi nga liability ang stock dividends distributable na yan. Discount on bonds payable, cash dividends payable, premium on bonds payable, lahat yan financial liability. Property dividends payable, kasi property yan. Hindi naman yan cash. Hindi naman to be settled in cash. Di ba? To be settled in non-cash asset, kaya hindi siya kasali. Accounts receivable, cash equivalents, investment in bonds, lahat yan financial asset. Sa dami naman yan, anong yan ha? Oh, hindi pa kayo magkakandatuto niyan. Okay, next. Gawin natin. Sige, get your copy of the problem so we will solve or we will answer multiple choice questions. Number 1, letter dog. Number 2, boy. 3C. 4C. 5, boy. 6, boy. 7, boy. 8, dog. 9C. 10C. 11, dog. 12C. 13, dog. 14, boy. 15A. 16C. 17C. 18A. 19A. 20A. Puro A ah. Okay. 21A. 22 dog. 23 boy. 24C. 25 dog. 26A. 27 boy. 28 boy. 29 dog. 30 dog. 31A. 32 boy. 33 boy. 34C. 35 dog. 36C. 37C. 38A. 39C. 40C. Ang dami. 41A. 42 dog. 43 boy. 44 dog. 45 boy. 46C. 47 dog. 48C. 49A. May tanong ako, mga precious metals, like gold, like silver, ano ba yung mga yan? Ay hindi po financial instrument yan. Okay? So, 50A o 49A, 50A, 51C, 52C, 53A, 54 dog, 55A, 56 dog, 57C, 58 boy, 59A, 60A, 61 dog. Ay, meron na kayo nito, yung investment property. Anyway, 62A, 63 dog, 64 boy, 65 boy, 66A, 67 dog, 68A, 69 boy, 70A, 71 dog, 72A, 73A, 74A, 75 dog, 76A, 77A. Other long-term investment. Okay, 78 dog, 79C, 80C, 81 dog. Ito naman, PAS 28, 82 boy, 83 boy, 84C, 85A, 86 dog. Okay, 87 boy, 88 dog, 89C. Okay, ito pa. Ito naman, cash and receivables. Naaalala niyo ba yung accounting for cash nyo? Although sabi nga natin, ang cash has a separate PFRS. Kaya lang, no, so it's all about, is more of the statement of cash flows. Kaya pahaging lang yung details ng cash doon. Okay? Pag sinabi natin cash, cash on hand, cash in bank, cash funds, no? Okay. So sa cash and receivables, no? Alamin natin. Okay. So for number 1, dog. Number 2, A. Number 3, dog. Number 4, A. Number 5, dog. Number 6, C. Number 7, boy. Number 8, dog. Number 9, C. And number 10, A. Yan. Alin lang ang kakaiba dyan? Wala naman. Pag sinabi mong post-dated check, abay hindi yan cash. Alam natin yan. Kasi hindi pa siya good check. 'Di ba? Ano pa? Next. Number 1, dog. Number 2, boy. Number 3, dog. Number 4, C. Number 5, boy. Number 6, dog. Number 7, dog. Number 8, dog. Number 9, boy. Number 10, C. 11, boy. 12C. 13A. At ano ba itong impress petty cash system? Siyempre, cash includes cash fund. Di may mga cash fund. Di ba dapat lahat ng cash fund is handled or is controlled, no? Using impress petty cash system. Hindi maganda yung fluctuating fund system. Mas maganda yung impress petty cash system. Okay? Alam natin yan. Ano bang difference niyan? Pag sinabi nating impress petty cash system, it means to say, yung petty cash account balance, petty cash fund balance, no, is more or less fixed unless you increase the fund or decrease the fund. Pero for accounting purposes, lahat ng mga expenses from the fund, no, hindi natin outright na ibinabawas dun sa petty cash fund. Kine-credit outright dun sa petty cash fund. Kailan lang tayo nagke-credit sa petty cash fund? Kapag i-replenish na natin, no, yung ating petty cash fund. Petty cash fund lang naman ang pero it is applicable to all kinds of fund. Like for example, yung revolving fund. Minsan tawag nila revolving fund. Sometimes they call it change fund. Basta laging impressed petty cash system ang gagamitin. Hindi fluctuating fund system. Kasi sa fluctuating fund system, hindi maganda ang control. Kasi every now and then, nabawasan mo yung fund. Nagre-record ka na kagad outright ng credit to petty cash. Di imagine yung movement ng account balance. Every time na babawasan mo, nagke-credit ka. Samantalang sa impressed fund system, nagke-credit ka lang ng petty cash fund kapag magre-replenish ka na ng magre ibig sabihin, no, pag ang tawag sa totoo lang, hindi mo nga i-credit eh. No, hindi pala i-credit eh. No, so ang gagawin mo, um, ang gagawin mo diyan o yung ano, yung mga expenses natin, no? Upon ang tawag dito, upon disbursement from the petty cash fund, hindi natin outright na ire-record sa petty cash fund para hindi mabawasan yung balanse, hindi hindi frequent yung movement ng petty cash fund, no? Kailan lang tayo nag-e-entry, no, ng mga disbursement na yan kapag i-replenish na ang fund at hindi mo kine-credit sa petty cash fund. O, ganun yun. Di ba? So, masama ang fluctuating fund system. Okay. Okay. So, ang 13 yun, ano? 14. Dog. 15. C. 16. A. 17. C. 18. Boy. 19. Dog. 20. C. 21. A. Naku, may window dressing pa dito. Bank reconciliation. O, ano raw yan? Dog. 23. Kailan ka nagre-reconcile? Nag-prepare ng bank reconciliation at the end of the month, di ba? Monthly, kailangan may bank reconciliation. Di ba? Kung dalawa yung depository bank, yung company, dalawang sets ng bank reconciliation ang gagawin mo. Kung iba-iba pa yung iyong mga, ano, may savings account ka na, meron ka pang checking account, for every account, bank account, may bank reconciliation ka. Di ba? Okay, so next, A. So 22 is dog, 23 is A, 24 I dog, 25 boy, 26 C, 27 dog, 28 dog, 29 C, 30 boy, 31 dog. Naku, siguro hasang-hasa na kayo sa bank reconciliation. Ano? 32 A, 33 boy, 34 is boy, 35 is A, 36 ay boy. Oh, di ba? May tanong ako. Paano nga pala yung ano, kunwari na magkaroon ng ano, direct transaction cost yung ano, yung loans receivable mo? O ano yun? Ika-capitalize mo ba yon as a cost, as value or debit to loans and receivable? Answer, yes. Basta directly attributable to the acquisition, no? Okay, so fair value plus transaction costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition. So answer natin dyan, boy. 37C, ayan, yung sinasabi nating financial asset at ano, iced cost using effective interest method. Ha? Okay, next, 38, letter C. 39, dog. 40, C. 41, C. 42, C. 43, A. 44, C. 45, boy. 46, A. 47, A. 48 is A, 49 dog, 50 boy, 51 C, 52 dog, 53 C, 54 C, 55 C, 56 C, 57 dog, 58 dog, 59 A, 60 dog, yung factor solve ba? 61 boy, 62 C, 63 C, 64 C, and 65 C. Ay, natapos. Okay? So, financial instrument. Tapos na tayo dito. Okay? Oh, nakahinga na tayo. Natapos na itong pagkahaba-haba na to. So as I said, magche-check uli ako ng attendance kasi maraming wala kanina. Okay? So make sure that you are included in the attendance. Okay, so sandali. La, bakit ayaw? Sandali. Snipping. Plus. May 8. Alright. O, ano pa ang natitira dyan? Naku, madami pa tayong handout. Naku, nadadagdagan. O, hindi pa tayo tapos ha. May 15 minutes pa tayo. Sayang din yun. Mm-hmm. Asa na ba tayo? Teka. Ano nga lesson na? Teka, sandali. Titingnan ko muna. Sa dami ng lesson natin, nakalimutan ko na kung ano na. Wait lang. What's next? Non-current asset held for sale. Oh, maikli lang to, maikli lang. Oh, istorya lang natin yan. Sandali. Oh, istorya. Teka, sandali. Yan ako pala. Oh no. Istorya. Sandali. Ayan. O, ganito lang naman ang istorya niyan. Okay. Ang istorya niyan ay ganito. Eh di ba, meron kang, sabihin natin, the company has a PPE item. Sabihin natin, lupa. Okay. So, land. Ayan. At alam naman natin, ay, wag na lang land, building na lang. Okay. Alam naman natin na PPE is a non-current asset. Alam natin yan. In fact, dinedepreciate mo nga yan. Kaya ibig sabihin, let's say, at the end of the reporting period, dapat laging updated yung carrying amount mo ng building. Okay, paano ginagawa yon? Eh, di ba, sabi natin, cost minus accumulated depreciation and impairment losses equal to carrying amount of the building. Di ba? So, nasa non-current asset yun. Di ba? Ngayon, nagbago ang panahon. Eto na. Yung management, no? Nagbago ang balak dito sa building, no? So it is said that any of the following conditions must be met for an asset to be considered as a non-current asset held for sale. Okay. O kaya naman, kung group of assets yon, disposal group asset ang tawag. Kapag isang asset lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, example, building, ang tawag natin doon magiging non-current asset held for sale. Okay. O kaya naman, group of assets yan. Kunwari, cash generating unit. So, anong tawag natin dyan? Magiging disposal group asset. Bakit? Kasi, nagbago na yung management at ang sabi, nag-decide ang management that it's gonna be held for sale. Ibebenta na nila. Such that, if the following conditions are met, then that asset which used to be a non-current asset will be reclassified into current asset. Sa makatwid, pag sinabi nating non-current asset held for sale or disposal group asset, ang classification natin sa statement of financial position, they are no longer non-current asset. They are already current asset. Okay. Ano-ano yung mga conditions na yon for us to reclassify that item which used to be non-current asset, we will reclassify to current asset. Ito ang mga kondisyon. The management is committed to a plan to sell. Anong ibig sabihin ng commitment? Hindi lang siya isang simple na plano, na bukas magbabago na uli yung kanilang intensyon. Ay, wag na pala, hindi ko na lang ibebenta. Tapos the following day, ay, magbabago na naman. O sige, benta na lang natin. It got to be a commitment. At pag sinabing commitment, it means to say more or less, it will be realized. Okay? So, management is committed to a plan to sell. Pinag-usapan na nila, may board resolution na. Okay? Na major decision, ibebenta na yung building, may board resolution na. Okay? At meron ng concrete plan to sell. Okay? Meron ng board resolution, meron pang complete plan to sell. The asset is available for immediate sale. Anong ibig sabihin ng immediate sale? Tingnan mo yung fourth bullet. The sale is highly probable, sigurado, hindi lang possible, highly probable within 12 months of classification as held for sale. Yun yung sinasabi nating immediate sale. It has to be within the 12 months of classification as held for sale. Kung nireclassify mo siya as held for sale, on December 1st, sabihin natin December 31 of 2023, it has to be sold within the next 12 months till or up until December 31 of 2024. Yun yung within 12-month period. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, talagang the asset is available for immediate sale. And there is already an active program to locate a buyer is initiated. Nagpa-ano na sila, nagpa-auction to sell. Pinublish na nila sa mga newspaper. Okay? Sa social media, dun sa website nila and all those strategies to locate a buyer. Okay, naghahanap na talaga sila ng buyer. Okay, as we all know, it has to be within the 12-month of classifying or classification as held for sale. The asset is being actively marketed for sale at a sales price. Anong word yan? Reasonable. Ibig sabihin ng reasonable, hindi yung presyong parang ayaw ipagbili. Reasonable in relation to its fair value. Example, ang fair value ng building ay 200 million. 200, ano kayong klaseng building yun? 200 million. Tapos ang gusto mong ibenta, fair value is 200 million, ha? Tapos gusto mong ibenta ng 1 billion. Ay, hindi yan. Hindi reasonable yan in relation to its fair value. Yun yung presyong ayaw ipagbili. Kaya kailangan reasonable naman yung sales price, no, in relation to its fair value. And normally nga it may be if it wants to be immediately sold, if the entity wants it to be sold immediately, pwede nga mas mababa pa, lower than the fair value yung offer price. Right? Okay. Action required to complete the plan indicate that it is unlikely that plan will be significantly changed or withdrawn. Siguradong sigurado na. Okay? Ngayon, for accounting purposes, no, ano ang kaibahan ng classification into held for sale? Kasi once you classify an asset, no, a non-cash asset as held for sale or disposal group asset, ang tawag natin, you stop depreciating the asset. The moment you classify or you reclassify the asset from non-current asset to current asset held for sale, you have to stop the depreciation. So within the next 12 months, na depreciation. Hindi mo na siya i-depreciate. That's the point. Okay? So, punta tayo sa measurement. Okay, measurement. So at the time of the classification as held for sale, what is the measurement basis? The measurement basis is that of the lower of carrying amount and fair value less cost to sell. Ano ibig sabihin? Ang ibig sabihin niyan, you have to update the carrying amount, no? As of the time of classification. Kailangan tama yung carrying amount mo. Updated yung carrying amount mo. And then you will compare the carrying amount with that of the fair value less cost to sell. Okay? No, the fair value less cost to sell versus the carrying amount. And that if the carrying amount is even more than or above the fair value less cost to sell, then there is an impairment loss to be recognized. It's a paper loss dahil hindi mo pa naman ibinibenta. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pag nakita mo pala, if you find out that the carrying amount of the asset, of the non-current asset held for sale, is even higher than the fair value less cost to sell, then you will have to recognize a paper loss. Bakit a paper loss? Kasi unrealized loss pa naman yon. Dahil po, hindi pa naman ibinebenta. Kaya anong entry mo? Debit impairment loss and credit accumulated depreciation. Once you increase the accumulated depreciation, then yung carrying amount mo bababa. O gets nyo? O ganon. So ano nga uli? The lower amount between the carrying amount and the fair value less cost to sell of the non-current asset held for sale. O gets nyo? O ganon yun, ha? O, yun ang importansya dyan. O yan yung sinasabing non-depreciation. Non-current assets or disposal group that are classified as held for sale shall not be depreciated. Gets? Okay, so yon ano? Kaya importante pala yon. Ano pa ang importante dito? Paano kapag nagkaroon ng subsequent increase in fair value? To the effect na mas mataas na ang fair value kesa doon sa carrying amount. Ibig sabihin, nakabawi yung fair value. And previously, nag-recognize ka ng impairment loss kasi mas mataas yung carrying amount mo kaysa doon sa fair value. The following year, na hindi mo pa, sabihin natin, hindi mo pa binebenta, nag-increase ang fair value. Ano gagawin mo? Ito ang gagawin mo. Again, for any subsequent increase in fair value, less cost to sell of an asset can be recognized in the P&L to the extent that it is not in excess of the cumulative impairment loss that you have recorded previously. Yan yung tinatawag nating gain on reversal of impairment. Nakabawi yung fair value, less cost to sell. Di ba? Anong gagawin mo? Previously nag-impairment loss ka. Nakabawi yung fair value. Anong gagawin mo? Di re-recognize mo naman yung gain on reversal of impairment. Na hindi dapat tumaas pa doon sa impairment loss na previously that you have recorded, no? You had recorded previously. Gets nyo? Ganon ang ibig sabihin yan. No? Ano fe? Kaya paano kung because of a force majeure, no? Nagkaroon talaga, whether they like it or not, hindi na nila ibebenta yung building. Nagkaroon ng there may be reasons that are not controllable by the entity. Sabi nila, hindi na pala pwede. Kasi dati, it used to be dalawang building. Yung isang building is spare, kaya ibebenta na nila. Ang nangyari, nagkaroon ng distraction yung building nila. No? So, it's a rare or sabing natin nga, force majeure nga eh. Okay. Hindi na matutuloy yung benta ng building na non-current asset as held for sale. Ano gagawin mo? Ibabalik mo siya sa kanyang non-current asset classification. At hindi lang yan. Dahil hindi ka nag-depreciate nung ikina-classify mo siya as non-current asset held for sale or current asset, na naging current asset siya, no? Kailangan you have to work back and compute the depreciation that have not been recorded. Bakit? Ibinalik mo siya dun sa original state niya or original classification niya as non-current asset. Yun ang ibig sabihin niyan. Ibalik. And that as if you have not classified it to non-current asset at held for sale. Kaya yung lahat ng mga unrecorded depreciation should be recognized. Yun ang ibig sabihin nun. Ha? Okay. So, yan lang ang non-current asset held for sale. At saka, nandito rin yata yung discontinued operation. And discontinued operation. Ayan, okay? Ayan. So, maikli lang naman sa discontinued operation. Di ba? Sa income statement, merong income from continuing operation at saka may income from income or loss from discontinued operation. Pina-present ba natin pareho? Yes! In fact, yung discontinued operation should be presented net of tax. Di ba? So, inilalagay natin yan. So, meron ng income from continuing operation, meron pang result from discontinued operation, which is presented net tax. Di ba? Ganon, ano? Ano ba ibig sabihin ng discontinued? A discontinued operation is a component of an entity that either has been disposed of or is classified as held for sale. Okay? So, yan ang discontinued. Hindi na itunuloy yung operation. Kunwari, sabihin natin, itong company merong 5 business segments. Yung isang business segment nila, sinutdown na nila. Okay? Tinatawag na discontinued operation. Okay? So, ipe-present mo sa income statement? Answer, yes. Okay? Bakit hindi? Okay, so part pa rin yan ng income statement. Okay? So, answer na natin before I let you go. Okay, number 1. So, non-current asset held for sale. Okay, number 1, dog. Number 2, A. Number 3, A. Number 4, A. Ba't puro A ito? Number 5, A. Number 6, C. Number 7, dog. 8, A. 9, dog. 10, dog. 11, C. 12, dog. 13, dog. 14, dog. 15, dog. 16, C. 17, boy. 18, C. 19, A. 20, A. 21, C. O, yun na. Okay, so let's call this a day. No, I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye and have a good night.